There's no manual. Hi, I'm Caroline Gow in the Baird and Warner Glenbrook office, and today I've invited Amy Hertzberg. She's a parent coach in to talk with us today, and she's got a small business helping parents. And thanks for coming in.
Thank you for featuring me, Carolyn.
So, a lot of times parents will say, there's no manual, or I don't know how to do this because he's my oldest, I've never seen this before, and how do people know that they need to have a parent coach? And how did you get started?
Well, I've always had an interest in working with children and families and parents. As a social worker, I worked in foster care and adoption, and I also worked as a placement counselor for a prominent nanny agency in California. But it wasn't until I became a parent myself did I truly understand how challenging parenting can be. So over a decade ago, when I was feeling frustrated and ineffective as a parent and exhausted, I decided to take parenting classes myself. And through those classes, parenting books, and my own work with a coach, I discovered new perspectives, learned new strategies, and regained my confidence as a parent. The experience was so transformative that it inspired me and motivated me to become a parent coach to empower others.
What types of coaching do you offer, and is there a certain age group?
I offer individual coaching sessions tailored to meet each client's unique needs, as well as group sessions. And thanks to Zoom, meeting is much more flexible. I offer virtual, telephone, and in-person sessions. I love working with groups. It's a great girls' night out. When moms get together with their friends, we often talk about our kids anyway, so why not get a group of friends together to discuss your most pressing parenting challenges? And for mothers of young children, it's a great excuse to get out in the evening and miss bedtime. And regarding ages, if you were to ask me when I first started, I would probably tell you my specialty was younger children because that was what I had experience with. But now that I have successfully, like you, launched a child out of the home into college, even in a pandemic, I feel I can really work with parents who have children of all ages. And I'd also like to point out that parent coaching is really intended to empower parents to tap into their own internal resources and strengths, so the ages of the kids really becomes less important.
Oh, that's a good point. Describe some situations that you have experienced that if they worked with you as a coach that you could help them with.
Okay, wow, it really runs the gamut. Some common situations when I'm coaching parents of younger kids include examining a behavior, a negative or inappropriate behavior that needs modification or correction. And what I'll often do with the parents together is try to discover the why and the when, why the child might be presenting with this behavior, because we've learned that once you can pinpoint the reason behind the behavior and address that reason, it often resolves behavior. Another situation that's common that I work with parents of younger children is introducing new strategies to relieve the stress around homework, the morning routine, the bedtime routine, as well as offer new ways to communicate more effectively and more positively to reduce some of that yelling and nagging that is so exhausting in order to get our children to listen to us and cooperate. But perhaps what I'm most passionate about and I feel is the most urgent parenting topic today is empowering parents to step back in areas where we, because I'm a parent too, are over-involved in order to raise resilient kids who can cope and problem solve when life is uncomfortable, difficult, and unfair. There's a real crisis today, Carolyn, of kids of all ages, and I've even seen it displayed on the college parent pages of young adults who cannot solve the minor problems and daily challenges that life presents. So I really love to work with parents early on and help them examine those areas where we swoop in to fix it for our kids, to solve our kids' problems, or even to protect and shield them from difficult situations or emotions that may be uncomfortable and unfair. Life is sometimes difficult, unfair, and uncomfortable, and it's so tough to see our kids struggle with those emotions. But if we let them marinate, if we allow them to sit in those emotions and let it marinate, and with our guidance and support can help them work through whatever the adversity is, then we know they will be able to cope and adapt to life outside our home. And as I say, and isn't that the most important goal of being a parent, is to prepare our kids for life outside our home? So if I can get in there and work with families early on to make that shift, I know it can prevent some of the anxiety and low adaptation skills and low emotional intelligence that we're seeing today.
So I know that sometimes we see other parents and we might be judgmental and saying, oh, that's a helicopter parent.
Right.
But I'm kind of curious, like, how does that manifest when they get to be in college if they were raised in a helicopter parent type of scenario? What's an example of something that you would see, how that plays out?
Excellent question. And I think about it all the time because I was raised in the 1970s and 80s, and the parents were way less over-involved. So what I think is one big difference today are the cell phones. It is like an umbilical cord that attaches our kids to us 24/7. So when I'm working with a parent whose child texts multiple times a day or hour from hundreds of miles away on a college campus, or it even begins in junior high when so many kids get their phones, I will empower the parents to, one, create boundaries, because you have a life too, and they may be texting you while you're in the middle of your work day or at lunch or on a vacation, and they need to know that life doesn't revolve around them. And two, it's really important when our kids are asking us questions to encourage critical thinking skills by asking them a question back. Rather than solving it or fixing it, you might text, what ideas do you have? Or how do you think you can resolve that? And then follow up with, let me know how it goes. And when we do this, we are sending our kids the message that we have confidence in them and that they are capable.
Almost like teach a man to fish, so that you're not just giving them the fish. That's sort of the analogy.
Yes, yes. And we talked about the swooping in, which is the helicopter metaphor. And I don't know if you've heard the metaphor of wrapping our kids in bubble wrap to protect and shield them from hard things. But my favorite quote, which sums up my parenting philosophy, is prepare the child for the road, not the road for the child.
That's a good point. Yeah, I love that. Amy, what is the most memorable challenge that you've had, and how did you solve it?
Okay. The most memorable is with a couple that I worked with who, with the best intentions, because parents generally have good intentions, were trying to make all things equal between their two boys. And I call that the even-Steven approach, and it doesn't work. So in this case, it was taken to an extreme. Every time their 3-year-old, who had just learned potty training, flushed the toilet, they would have their 16-month-old run and flush the toilet. And it wasn't for purposes of preparing the 16-month-old for potty training. It was because they wanted it to be equal, because the older one got to flush the toilet, the younger one should get that experience, so it's fair. So through my parent coaching, they came to realize that when you try to make everything equal, it actually fuels more competition, rivalry, and jealousy, and not to mention it's exhausting for parents to keep that up. So they came to realize that things aren't always fair in life. Sometimes your ice cream cone will be bigger than mine, and sometimes the older child will have a later bedtime or a birthday party, and the younger child won't, and that's life, and that's one of the ways we prepare our kids for life.
Oh, that's interesting, because my brother is 3 years younger than me, and we had very different interests, and my parents tried to be fair, but if I got a trip, then maybe he got a different experience, and it was that's how they kind of figured it out. This is all very good information, and how can a parent get in touch with you if they'd like more details?
Right now, I'm on Facebook at Amy Hertzberg Parenting. Hopefully, I'll relaunch a new website. I had an older one that was outdated, but I'm also on a website called Indigo Life Network, which is a website to access coaches and experts founded by a local Deerfield mom.
Oh, cool.
And I probably should get with the program and get on Instagram.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for featuring me.